Hello. It is very late at night here, and it is blizzarding outside in New Jersey, but I thought I would do a puzzle anyway. And I thought I would get another one by Eric Rathbun. I did a puzzle of his a couple of days ago called Easy Arrows and made a video out of it, and he commented on it. So thank you for introducing yourself to me, Eric. I'm excited to play some more of your puzzles. The last Easy Arrows was a lot of fun. This one is called Old Fashioned TV Antenna, and I don't know a lot about it, but it looks like a lot of fun too. I got it off Cracking the Cryptic. I think it was an old video. I'm not actually sure. But this one only has 91 solvers, so I don't know if that means it's very, very hard or what, but I'm excited to make myself the 92nd solver if I can. So I think with that, I will start the puzzle. I didn't read the rules, so what are the rules? Normal Sudoku rules apply. In cages, digits must sum to the clue in the top left corner of the cage. Okay. Digits along an arrow sum to the digit in that arrow's circle. Digits along an arrow. Say that one more time. Digits along an arrow sum to the digit in that arrow's circle. Okay. I've seen that rule before. I'm looking at the puzzle now. But I guess what we're going to have with that, I don't want to stop reading the rules in the middle. Maybe I'll get back to this in a second. But clues outside the grid give the sum of the digits along the indicated diagonal. Digits can repeat along such a diagonal if allowed by other rules. Okay. So what are the rules? We know that there are these cages. In these cages, the digits are going to sum to the number that's in the corner. So these three are going to sum to 18. I wonder how that's going to be done. These ones are going to sum to 13. We'll figure out how that's going to be done too. There's another sum rule. You could think about this as a weird cage, but along this diagonal, these numbers here need to sum to 11. They're allowed to be repeating though. So we could have like a 1, 1, 4, 5 situation, something like that. That would sum to 11. These ones have to sum to 27. These ones have to sum to 25, and these ones have to sum to 30. I feel like that's a pretty big sum for 4 numbers. But I'll think about that in a minute. The last, really a middle rule that seems like the most important is that this number has to be the sum of all of these numbers. This has to be written, this number here, whatever it is, needs to be possibly written as the sum in many different sums. I don't know if they're really different, but we'll figure it out. Other than that, we don't have any numbers in the grid, and I think that's all the rules. In the cages, digits must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the cage. Digits along an arrow must sum to the digits in that arrow's circle. Clues outside the grid give the sum of the digits along the indicated diagonal. Digits can repeat along a diagonal if allowed by other rules. So yeah, so how do we do this? Well, the first place I could, I want to figure out what goes in here, and I have a feeling it has to be a big number. I mean, it couldn't be 1, for example, for somewhat obvious reasons. But the first thing I'm sort of noticing here is that these 4 are all unique. And, well, first of all, any digit that's along the line must be less than the digit in the circle. So we're not allowed to have an 8 on the lines, or excuse me, a 9 on the lines, because the circle would need to be greater than 9. But we're also not allowed to have like an 8, because if I put an 8 here and then maybe 2 1s, I would get 10 for the circle, and that's not allowed. So we're not allowed to have 9s or 8s on the arrows. All of the arrows are of length 3. But they sort of connect, and there's many of them. So, I mean, I guess what that tells us is that the 9 and the 8 definitely go out here somewhere. But I feel like and it's just going to add more notation to this. We could think now about what the smallest number this could possibly be is. So first of all, these 4 numbers, they need to be unique and they need to be smaller than this. If these 4 were the smallest possible numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, then this would have to be at least 6, because we could have 4, 1, and 1, or something like that. But this would have to be at least 6. It could, I think, be a 6, 7, 8, or 9. But I don't really know if it's possible for it to be a 6 or what it's possible to be for. Let me just, you know, I don't want to guess or anything, but let me play through and see if it's even possible to get a 6. Like I could do 6, 3, 2, 1, and then I could do 1, 2 here. Now I could put a 2 here and do 1, 3, and then I could do 3, 1. Is that all right so far? And then this would have to be a 1. This then can't be a 1 or a 2 or a 3. Can it be a 3? This now can't be a 1, 2, or 3. Okay. It's interesting. It's interesting to see how this old-fashioned TV antenna, I guess that's what it looks like, how the numbers interact through it. But that was more for like just sort of learning about how the puzzle works. It's still, to the best of my knowledge, possible to get a 6. I think. I guess maybe it's not possible for it to be a 6 because what do we say? So this would be 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Which means one of these would need to be a 4. So now maybe I should have actually played it through, but I should have done it like this. Like this would have to be a 4. Now to make 6, I would need both of these to be 1 and 1, like 1, 1, 1, 1, and this would cause a contradiction in the rows and columns. So you're not allowed to be a 6. We lied about that. How about 7? Is 7 possible? Well, let's see. Is it possible for any of these to be 5? I don't think it is, because then we would have the same problem. If this was a 5, we would have 2 1s would need to go here and here. So for this to be a 7, we would need these 4 numbers to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there would need to be a 4 on one of the legs of the tree. And in that case, we would have like a 1 and a 2 and a 2 and a 1. I just want to think about it. If it was a 7, we would need this situation. And now there would need to be a 3. There would need to be a leg of the antenna with a 3 on it. A 3 at the intersection. And then these would need to add to 4. Well, that's not necessary. I mean, it could be this. This could be... be 3, 3, and 1, and then 3, 3, 3, and 1, 3, 1, and 3. That would be allowed. In order for, yeah. I guess you could also have a 3. You can't have a 3, 2, and 2 anywhere. So it would need to be, we could have a 3. It would need to be 3, 2, and 1, and this would cause a contradiction here. Because we can't put the 3 here. We might be able to put a 3 here. I'm just thinking through all the possibilities, like all the possible shapes. This is sort of a brute force approach, which is maybe not always like acceptable, but I want to think about the shape at least. So like if this was a 3, we're 7.5 minutes in, but I just sort of showed that I don't think the 3 could go here. If we're pretending that this is a 7. And then if this is a 7, one of these legs needs to be a 4. And if there's a 4 here, then it all fills in. You can sort of think about rotating the shape, but we're just playing with the shapes of the numbers. So we then determined that there would also need to be a leg with a 3 on it, and that 3 couldn't go here or here. We determined it couldn't go here, and then by a reflexive argument, it couldn't go there. So if the 3 was here, we would still need 1 and 3 on the leg. So it would need to be something like 1 and 3, because we couldn't have 2 and 2 there. And then 1 and 3. That would then fit. So then I would need a 1 on one of the legs. I could put a 1 here. No, I couldn't put a 1 there. 7 isn't allowed either. Because now I need one of these legs to have a 2 and the other one to have a 1. And 1 isn't allowed on either of them. So 7 is not allowed in the center. This is a bit brute force. I don't know. I feel like that couldn't be the way of doing this. I feel like, yeah, and I feel like with 8 we're gonna run into problems. I don't know. We might not. I don't necessarily feel good. Excuse me. I don't necessarily feel good about what just happened. I don't know. I don't really believe that was the right way of going about the puzzle. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's the right way of going about the puzzle, but I'm supposed to use something like intuitive about how these sums would have to be even or odd or something like this. Like, if this is an even number, this is kind of a bizarre way of handling it, but if this is an even number, then one of these must be an even number, because there's only 4 even numbers in the number set. So like maybe then this would be an even number, and then what we need to say is that these would need to add to an even number or something. That's kind of... that seems kind of far-stretched. I don't know. 10 minutes into the puzzle, I just don't feel like there's a lot to go on. It'd be interesting if I could somehow use these sums and these sums to come up with like a sum for this or something. Like there's a lot of, like the rules in this puzzle are all sum based. You need to have a sum across the arrows, along the arrows. You need to have sums on the diagonals, and you need to have sums in the cages. And I just wonder if there's there are other constraints, right, that you can put on yourself, like the sum of all of the digits in a region is going to be 45, and the same is true in the rows and columns. But that doesn't really seem helpful. I have one idea. I have one idea here. And the idea is that it's possible that if we brute force this with 8, then 8 isn't allowed, but that 9 only has one solution. And my thinking is that it might be possible for that one solution for 9 to have combinations at the arrows such that there is one that fits very nicely on the diagonal with the 11. You could imagine that doesn't seem right, but you could imagine a situation with a 9 where one of these is a 5 and one of these is a 4, and that wouldn't fit very well here. Or maybe it would, but this would need to be a 1 and this would need to be a 1, and maybe that would violate some constraints elsewhere. So I wonder if first you figure out the numbers that go on the antenna, and then you figure out the direction that the antenna is pointing. I mean, it's possible. Let me see what happens when this is an 8. When this is an 8, what happens? Well, what are the numbers that can go on the first level extremities? Can I have a 7 on the extremities? I can't, because that would create 1, 1. No, excuse me. Can I have a 6? Can this be a 6? Well, then these two would need to add to 2, which means they would need to be 1 and 1. And the same is true with this. So this can't be a 6. But it could be a 5. It could be a 5. If this was a 5, then these would both need to add to 3. There's only 3 is an odd number. It would need to be the sum of an even number and an odd number, and then there's only one combination, right? So it would have to be something like this. Something like this. And then now we need to think about whether or not it's possible for a 4 to go on one of the extremities and then a 3. So is it possible for a 4 to go here, for example? What we'd have to check is these two and then this. This seems like such a... I wonder how they did this on Cracking the Cryptic. This brute force approach seems crazy to me, but let's see. Is it possible for a 4 to go here? If a 4 goes here, then I need to add to 8. I have to add to 4 in these. But I can't use 2 and 2 on either of these. These would need to be 3 and 1. So the 1 can't go here, so it would need to be 1 and 3. And then on this side, it would need to be 3 and 1. This is ridiculous. Now this can't be a 3, so it would need to be a 2 or a 1. If this is a 2, these would need to add to 6. They wouldn't be allowed to use 1, which means they wouldn't be allowed to use 5. They're not allowed to use 3 and 3. They would need to be 4 and 2. So if this was a 2, then this would need to be 2 and 4. And then on this side, this is insane. This is insanity. This can't be how you solve the puzzle. I don't think that's I don't think we should be brute forcing anything. I mean, who knows? Maybe we were very, very close, but These sum to 30. If this was a 9 and this was an 8, then these would sum to 17. So these would have to sum to 13. So the minimum possible thing that these could sum to is 13. And I think what that means is that this needs to be a 9. That's, I think, how you have to do it. That's crazy. I mean, I'm going to have to think through that again, but I'm going to feel really bad about any of the brute forcing we did at the beginning. This seems like a hard puzzle. I don't remember how many people solved it, but wow, like that's very interesting. Let me try this. Let me see this again. So these 4 cells need to add up to 30. Oh, I guess what we could have is a 9 and a 9 here. So this would add to 18. Then these two would need to add to 12. So we can't have a 6 and a 6. These two, what I'm going after here is that the minimum that these two could add to would have to be 12, right? So in the minimum case, one of these would need to be a 7. I think you can show that one of these needs to be a 7. Or one of them needs to be at least a 7. And then if one of these needs to be at least a 7, then this one must be a 9. Because then we could add just 1 and 1 to it. And then, or we would need to add 1 and 1 to it. If one of these two needs to be 7, and I think 7 is the maximum that can go on the line, now that I think about it, then this would need to be a 9. So maybe that's how you do it. So I think this needs to be a 9. Okay, now we know the 9 doesn't go out here. We know the 9 does not go out there. We know that these add to 30. Say this was a 9 and a 9, then one of these would need to be the maximum these could possibly be is 7. The maximum they could possibly be is 7. I think we're guaranteed to have a 7 and a 6. A 7 and a 6? Why a 7 and a 6? A 7 and a... I think we're guaranteed to have a 7. At least one 7. And I have to think about what else we're guaranteed to have. Definitely we're guaranteed to have a 7. I mean, let's just write it down and see what happens. If this was a 9 and this was a 9, I'm sort of playing with the idea here that these are bounded from above by 7 and they need to add to 30. So if you think about what the maximum possible sum is, it would be these two would add to 16, then we multiply by these. So the maximum possible sum for all of these is going to be 32 with the 9 here. And then these two aren't allowed to be the same. So one of these could be a 6. And then the idea basically is that one of them can be, so now we need to just remove one more number from this to get to 30. So we just have 1 degree of freedom on this solution. So what we could have in the end, so one of these is going to need to be a 9, at least. One of these is going to need to be a 9. The other one could be a 9 or it could be an 8. And then one of these is going to need to be a 7, and the other one can be a 6 or a 5. So let me rewrite the numbers. This can be 6, 7, 5. One of them needs to be a 7. And then this can be 9 or 8. And then this one here can also be 9 or 8. Wow. Wow. That was crazy. Can I do more like that? I don't want to brute force this. That was cool, though. That was cool. Figuring out any one of these numbers figures out, well, figuring out which one is the off number figures out the rest of them. That's cool, though. So now we sort of have this, the other puzzle I did by Eric had this knight's move rule, which I didn't actually see until now, but like, where does the 9 have to go in this region? Well, I can't go here because these three see a 9 along the vertical, but in this bizarre line-shaped knight's move, it also can't go to these two. That's kind of cool. These aren't allowed to be 9s. Neither is this. Okay, if this was a 7, then we would need a 1 and a 1. So one of these must be 7. I'm just notating to myself that one must be 1 and 1. And then the other one, so say it's a 7, say it's a 7, 6, then the 6 needs to be 2 and 1. So this could also, is that possible? Say this was a 7 and say this was a 6. Then I would need 1 and 1 here. You would need to be 2 and 1. But that would create a contradiction because both of your available cells see 1s. So you can't be 7 and 6. You need to be 7 and 5. You need to be 7 and 5. 7 and 5. And now both of you need to be 9. Cool. Cool. All right, so now what do we know about the remaining numbers? So in this region here, a 9 must go in one of you two. One of you two must be a 9. I want to see if we can place the 9s. I don't really think we can, but in this, I wish we could place them around the diagonals. That would be interesting. So now, okay, so now I should fill in the rest of these. So one of these is a 7. 7 is going to have 1, 1. And then the 5, to add to 9, you need to create 4 across 2 cells. And you're not allowed to use 1 in either of them, which means you must be 2, 2. So one of these is going to be 1, 1 with the 5, and the other one's going to be 2, 2. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So, all right, so say this is a 5, then this is going to become 2, 2. Well, these are all different numbers. If this is a 5, this becomes 2, 2, and we add to 9. If this was a 7, this would become 1, 1, and we would add to 9. Oh, I love this. This is a fun puzzle. Um, huh. Do we fill in one of those and see what happens? Do we fill in one of those and see what happens? So like what? So now I have a 2 here. So these two would need to add to what? They would need to add to 7. Say this was 5, 2, 2. Then these two would need to add to 7. That doesn't seem especially limiting. Well, maybe it is. You would need to add to 7. No. No, I don't think so. Can I use the 9s more? So for example, in this region down here, the 9 can't go here or here because these see 9s along the rows, and it can't go here because you see a 9 by knight's move. So you're going to become a 9. One of you two is. I feel like I'm so close, but certainly I'm so far away. I mean, we're 26 minutes into the puzzle, and it's been an interesting one. There needs to be a 7 in here somewhere. We know that the 8 can't go on the lines, but can a 7 go on the line? So if a 7 went here, then I would need 1, 1, 1, 1. So a 7 can't go there. It needs to go off of the lines. It needs to go in one of those cells, right? If a 6 was here, then what we would have is 2, we'd have 6, 2, 1, 1, 2. That's the only way of placing a 6 there. And I think the thing about that is there's no way to avoid hitting these things. So if I put a 6 here and did 1, 2, this would see either a 1, like it must see a 1 and a 2. We're not allowed to have a 1 or a 2 on this line here. The minimum that this can be is 3, now that I think about it. The minimum that this can be is 3. The same is true with this one. You could be a 3, 4, something like that. But yeah, so if you're a 6, I don't think this works. 6 needs to go off the line because it would create something in these cells that is not a 3 or above. So then the only thing left is 5. If a 5 was here, which I don't see any problem with, the 5 was here, then what we would have is we would need these two to add to 4. We could do a 1 or a 3, or we could do a 2 and a 2. A 2 and the 2 could go there. So I guess maybe we don't know enough about 5s. Maybe I should do that. I don't think I should do that. I don't like this idea that I've slipped in at all to sort of guessing or searching on the puzzle. I want to just logic it out. And I feel like we've done some interesting things with this, at least. I wish we could do that along another diagonal. How could we do that along another diagonal? Well, we could apply the same logic as before to this line. or to this line, because now we know that a 1 and a 2 are definitely taken up. So at least one of these must be greater than. So U must be greater than, if you were a 3, you were a 4. Excuse me, you were, no. It's something like that. It's something like that. The minimum that this could be is a 3. The minimum that this could be is a 1. That means that the maximum that this could be is 5. The maximum that this could be is a 5? Because if this was a 5, then if this was a 6, then I would need a 1 and a 2. So let's think about this. The minimum that this could be is a 5. Then we could have 1 and 1. 7. Is it true that the minimum of this needs to be something? The minimum that this could possibly be is 5. U can only be a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You actually can't be a 9. You actually can't be an 8, but who's counting? What about U? So if you were a 1, then you would have to be a 2 at least, which means you could be a 6. If the minimum that these could be together, 1, 2, the minimum that these could be together is 3, then the maximum that this can be is 6. Right? Is it the minimum? Maybe I did this wrong. You can't, you need to be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. It's not the other way. The maximum that you can be is 5, and now the maximum that you can be is 6. Something like this. Is this what I meant to do? 6. No. Jeez, I'm just screwing myself up all over the place. I hope I didn't burn too much time on that logic, but let's just try that one more time. This can't be a 1 or a 2. So this could be a 3. The minimum that this could be is a 3. The minimum that this could be is a 1. So together the minimum of these two is going to be a 4. Does that mean that the maximum of this is a 5? Yes. This is the maximum that this can be is a 5. You can be a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. But this may cause, so if this was a 1, if this was a 1, then this would be a 5. I mean, yeah, if this was a 2, then this would be a 7. I have to think about the interplay between these options, but U can only be a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, we'll say. Now U could be a 1, and then U would be a 1. This would mean that the minimum that this could be is a 2. And it's the same in the reverse situation. If this was a 2, then the minimum of this could be is a 1. So the minimum sum of these two is 3. That means the maximum that this one can be is 6. Am I right about that? And I don't know if all of these are really possible, but what does that mean that the minimum sum for these two is? 0. That doesn't make any sense. We can't have 5 and 6. I wonder if this was just a wasted effort. "33 minutes in." This looked good. Telling you something, telling you the polarity of one of these sort of tells you about all of them, but I haven't yet been able to rectify with the other diagonals. I wonder if they're all tied together in some way. I don't know. I do not know. What about like this now? Maybe it wasn't this one that I should have started with, but this one. Because the thing is that these two share different stumps than these ones. So really the minimum for these two can be a 3 and a 4. So let's think about that now. Now that we're 34 minutes in. Let's say these all sum to be 27. So the maximum that this and this can be is 9 and 9 is 18, which means that the minimum that these two could sum to be would be 9. The minimum that these two could sum to be would be 9. And I think that means that the minimum that these could sum to be is 9. They could sum to be, the minimum they could sum to be is 9. And I think what that means is that one of them is at least 5. If you were a 5, then you two would need to sum. If you were a 5, for example, then one of you two, we couldn't put 2 and 2 here. What we would need is 3 and 1. That would be the necessity. And now what we would need is like 4, 2, and 3 or something like that. And then we could have, what, 9 and 9 on the outside, and that would all work. Does it work with a greater? One of you needs to be at least 5, but can either of you be 6? Is it possible for you to be a 6? If you're a 6, then what would we need to add to 9? We would need you to be a 1 and a 2, so you're not allowed to be 6. And that means that you two must be let me think about this for a second. You two need to be unique numbers. You two need to be unique numbers. The minimum that you're allowed to sum to is 9. And that's because the maximum that I can shove to in these extra digits is 9. What that means is that one of you needs to be at least a 5. Now you need to be unique, but one of you needs to be at least a 5. And if I try putting in a number greater than 5, I get a contradiction. What this means is that one of you must be a 5, and the other one must be less than 5. But you need to sum to at least 9, which means the other one must be a 4. So now these two are sort of locked together. My color scheme has totally lost it. But you need to be a 9. And so do you. And I think what that's going to allow us to do, what I hope that's going to allow us to do, is fill in the positions of all the 9s. I don't think that's what it actually does. One of you two now needs to be a 9. Okay, and one of you two now needs to be a 9. We're not allowed to have 9s in the and now one of you two needs to be a 9. Okay, now let's think about what happens with the 4 and the 5. If I have a 5 here, then I need these two to add to be 4. So I would need a 3. So the 1, this would need to be a 3, and this would need to be a 1. I should use the center cells. Let's just say this was 5. Then I would need this to be a 3, and this to be a 1. And now if you're 4, I can't do 2 and 2. I need you two to add to be 5. I would need to do 1 and 4. I think this is the only solution to the puzzle. And in both of those cases, there is a 1 here. So I think what this means is that you two are definitely 1s. Neither of you two, well, excuse me, you two are definitely a 4 and a 5. I don't know what in order. You two are definitely a 3 and a 4. I don't know in what order. So we can make you some other color. I don't know. I'm totally mixing up the colors here. And now what is left for you guys? You need to have a 5 somewhere in you. This has been a really fun puzzle. Thanks to Eric for making it. I still have to think about it. Crazy. I mean, now there must be more to do. So for example, I know that these sum to be 25, but I'm not allowed to have a 9 here and here. So the maximum that these two can, this is a really fun way of doing it. This is all right. So the maximum, neither of these can be a 9. So the maximum that they can sum to is 16, because if they were both 8s, if the maximum they can sum to is 16, that means that the minimum that these two can sum to is 9. So these need to sum to 9. And I think by the same reasoning, we're not allowed to have a 6 here. We are allowed to have a 6 here. Well, by the same reasoning, at least one of them needs to be a 5 or greater. So let's think about this for a second. Because I feel like we're really close. I feel like now if we can figure out what goes in these two, then that's going to figure out what goes in all of these other cells here. So if can you be a 6? First of all, can you be a 7? No, because if you were a 7, then you would need to be 1 and 1, and then you would need to be a 1, and then you would need to be a 7. So one of you needs to be greater. I think one of you needs to be greater than 5, but both of you need to be less than 6. Is it possible for you to be a 6? If you were a 6, then I would need to be either 2 and 1 or 1 and 2. I think it is possible for you to... I think that... Hold on a second here. I think it must be you that must be a 5 or a 6. The 5 or 6 can't go here because of the 3-4 situation. If this was a 5, then I would need this to be a 3 and this to be a 1. This would cause a contradiction. So a 5 can't go here, and a 6 can't go here because of the same thing. So one of you needs to be a 5 or a 6. I think that must be you. You must be a 5 or a 6. You must be a 5 or a 6. The other one I'm not quite sure of yet. But let's think about it. So if you both are 8, then you two need to sum to 9. If you were a 7 and you were an 8, then you two would need to sum to 10. Just hypothetically. And then what? You two would need to sum to 10. Is it possible? Do you need to be 8 and 8? If you're an 8 and an 8, then you two sum to 16, which means you two sum to 9. If you two sum to 9, then just looking at the number pad and the numbers that sum to 9, one of you needs to be a 5 or greater. You can't be a 5 or greater because of this constraint. So you must be a 5, or could you be a 6? You can be a 6 if it's 2 and 1, or 1 and 2. You can't be a 7. But if you were a 6, then you would need to be like a 3. We could have 3, 3, and 3. Or we could have 3, 2, and 4. You actually can't be a 2. So if you were a 6, then what I would need here... Well, you could be a 3. You could be something else, too, if these were smaller numbers. But I want to rule out the 6 possibility. So if you were a 6, what would have to happen? If you were a 6, then you would be, let's call you a 2. Then you would be a 1, then you would be a 1. Then you would be a 2, then you would be a 2. It doesn't cause any contradiction, I don't think. Well, 6, sorry, this can't be a 1. So if you were a 6, you would need to be a 2. which would mean U2 would need to be 1s and U2 would need to be 2s. But again, I don't think there's a contradiction. Try this one more time. Talk out loud, all of the steps, almost 45 minutes into the puzzle. But I'm determined. I'm determined to solve this. Oh, it was very late when I started, and now it's 44 minutes later. Let's see. I want to confirm for myself that it's possible that these are numbers other than 8 and 8. If this was a 7 and an 8, these would need to add to 10. This then couldn't be a 5. So this would have to be a 4. Okay. So is it possible for these two numbers to add to 10? The minimum they can possibly add to now is 6, because I could put a 1 here. But is it possible for these two numbers, for these numbers to add to 10? Well, they can't be a 5 and a 5, so they would need to be a 4 and a 6. If this was a 4 and this was a 3, then this would need to be a 2, but this sees a 2. So if this was a 4 and this was a 4, then this would need to be a 1. This sees a 1. So you can't be a 4. Just in any situation, I don't think you can be a 4. If we're listing off what you can be, you can't be a 4. 2, nope. Should we do that? Should we list off what you can be? You can't be a 4. You can be a 5. You can't be a 5, because if you're a 5, then you can't be a 5 either. So you can only be a 1, a 2, or a 3. You can only be a 1, a 2, or a 3. If you're a 1, then what? The minimum that this could possibly be is 3. The minimum that this could possibly be is 3. The minimum that this could possibly be is 3. The maximum this could possibly be is 3. I see. I see where we're at. Ooh, I just need to work through all these like sums. This is a really fun mental exercise. I am enjoying it, but it doesn't mean I'm not getting lost in the algebra of it. Okay. So we've established, I think, that... Ooh, wait a second. These are the only possibilities. Do we say that the minimum that you two could add to is 9? Because then there's only one way of doing this. Then you need to be a 6, and you need to be a 3, and you need to be an 8, and you need to be an 8. And now you need to be an 8. Just for starters. Okay. And now you need to be a 6, which means you need to be a 2 and a 1. But maybe let's not focus on this for a second. You can't be a 2. You need to be a 3. You need to be a 3, and now you need to be a 3. You need to be a 4. Okay, so you're a 4 and a 4, so you need to be a 4, and now you need to be a 5. Oh, I'm enjoying this quite a bit. The colors were a visual aid that don't really have any clear pattern at the moment. Okay. So you need to be a 2 and a 1, but you're not allowed to be a 1, so you need to be a 2, so you need to be a 1, so you need to be a 1. Now you need to be a 2, you need to be a 2, you need to be a 5, and you need to be a 7. This is electrifying. Let's see if we can get this done in under an hour. I'll be proud of myself if we can get this done in under an hour. This was a difficult puzzle. So you are a 4, which means that you two need to sum to 5. So you're actually no longer allowed to be a 5. You're also not allowed to be a 4, and you're not allowed to be a 2. You can only be a 1 or a 3. You two need to sum to 7. You can't be a 1, and you can't be a 5. You can't be a 6, because then this would be a 1. So you can't be a 6. If you were a 3, you would need to be a 4. If you were a 2, then you would need to be a 5. That seems like it's allowed, actually. If you were a 1, you two need to sum to 5. So if you were a 1, then you would need to be a 4. That's allowed. If you were a 3, you would need to be a 2. That's not allowed. You must be a 1. Now you must be a 4. So you must be a 2. And now you must be a 5. Okay, you're no longer allowed to be a 5. Big help that is. And now you need to sum along the diagonal to be 11. More specifically, you two at the ends here need to sum to be 8. You need to sum to be 8. So what is what's allowed to be what? The minimum that this can be is 3, because it sees a 1 and a 2. This one, I don't know why I keep now using this minimum thing. The minimum that this can be is a 3, but you two need to sum to 8. So what could I have? Could I have a 3 and a 5? No, that would sum to 8, but we would get this. We'd get a 5 contradiction. Could you be a 4 and a 4? No, because that would cause contradictions. Could you be a 2 and a 6? You could be a 6 and you could be a 2. No, you can't be a 2. Neither of you can be 2s. Could you be a 1 and a 7? Both of you see 1s. All right, so let me back up again on this. Hopefully I didn't make a mistake. I'd feel terrible. You two need to sum to 8. Am I correct about this? You two need to sum to 8 because the entire diagonal needs to sum to 11 and you sum to 3. So you two need to sum to 8. Can you be 1 and 7? Neither of you are allowed to be 1s. You both see 1s. So you're not allowed to be a 1 and a 7. Can you be a 2 and an 8? Well, you both see 2s. Can you be a 2 and a 6? You both see 2s also. Can you be a 3 and a 5? Well, you can't be a 5. You can be a 3 and a 5. I think. I think you can be a 3 and you can be a 5. But we can't have 4 and 4 because you both see 4s. All right, what I need to do is put colors on these things that are number-based and not just random-based. So let's make all the 1s red. Let's make all the 2s green. Let's make all the 3s pink because that's what we were using. I don't have any 6s. I have some 8s. Now these colors are... This was just terribly distracting. Such a bad idea. I should remove all the colors. What a waste of... The colors are fun. Sometimes they're distracting. Sometimes they're appealing. But they really serve a good purpose as a tool. And if you're not using them as a tool, then they just become distracting. That was a little distracting. But now I feel like I've got a fairly filled-in grid. So you guys need to add to 18. Maybe that isn't where I should start. Maybe that isn't where I should start. I knew that the 8 went in here somehow. Let's see, what can I do? So an 8 needs to go in one of you 3. I don't know if that's really what I should be doing. A 4, now I think it just becomes somewhat classic Sudoku. So a 4 needs to go there, right, right, that's what we get with 4s. Let's click around. So with the 1s, a 1 also needs to go in these cells. 1 can't go here. All right, so 1 must go in one of these. Here, the 1 must go up here. Down here, the 1 must go in here. I do wonder about that a little bit. If the 1 was inside this region, then we would need the others to add to be... well, let's see. So an 8 isn't allowed to go here or here, right? So then one of you two must be an 8. So you are the 8s. You're the 8 and the 9, and now I feel like I can use colors again because you two are locked together, and I should remember that. Nothing else is really locked together. These sort of are. No, they are, actually. You two are can only be a 6 and a 7. That means you need to be a 5. And now, with 5s, there needs to be a 5 where? There needs to be... I feel like we should figure this out. So what numbers go in these cells? So we can have a 1 here. A 1 definitely goes. A 1 definitely goes in this region. Why is that? Why is that? It's because of the 1s. A 1 definitely goes in this region. How about a 2? Twos. 2 can go more places. 3s, 4s. But a 1 definitely goes in one of these, and that means the other 2 add to 12. I'm not allowed to use the number 8. I'm not allowed to use 9. I'm not allowed to use 6. So I could have 7 and 5. That adds to 12. And I think that's the only way of doing this. I think this needs to be a 1, a 7, and a 5. And you're not allowed to be a 5, and you're not allowed to be a 7. But I'll use a color again. Maybe I'll use the color for you two. So what do you two need to be? You need to have a 2, and that 2 needs to go up here. And then you also need to have 1, 2, 3. You need to have a 4, and that 4 needs to go here. Now I think we're doing much better. Okay, I like what we did up there. Let's remove the colors. Again, kind of distracting. Let's see. Let's see. 9 needs to go there. 8, 4. What's missing in this row? A 6 and a 7, so you can only be a 6 or a 7. In this row, I'm missing a 6, a 7, and it looks like a 3. So where are my 3s? Okay, a 2 needs to go in this region. These C2s along the rows, these C2s along the columns. My 2 needs to go here. And now, 2 needs to go in this region. The only place a 2 can go is here. And now, a 2 needs to go in this region. It can go here or here. No, I shouldn't. Maybe I should notate that. And a 2 needs to go in this region. It must go here or here. 3s are less helpful. Okay, I have a pretty much full column. There needs to be a 6 and a 7. That can go here. You must be a 6 or a 7. And you're sort of orange cells. You're figured out when the orange cells are figured out. In this column here, what are we missing? So there needs to be a 6 and a 7 someplace. So, and then what's the other one? 1, 2, 3, 4. Excuse me. So, okay, so a 5 has to go down here, and a 5 has to go, so this means this needs to be a 5. And now this needs to be a 5. And now these two need to sum to be 13. They need to sum to be 13. We can't use 9. I wish there was another number that we could not use, but I don't see one. You need to sum to be 13. Can you be an 8 and a 5? No. Can you be a 7 and a 6? I think that's the only possibility. I think you must be a 7 and a 6. And now you are sort of all locked into this orange thing that's going on. We need a 4 somewhere in this region. That 4 needs to go here. We need a 1, 2, 3. We need 6, 7. We need an 8 somewhere in the region. We don't know too much about 8s. Even at this point, we don't know too much about 8s. Let's see. I know an 8 definitely goes in here. What's missing in this row? I feel like that's how we should have been handling these, the rows and the columns. So in this row, we're missing a 6 and a 7, and a 1, 2, 3. So where is the 3? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's, we maybe already tried that one. And then in this one, 1, 2, 3, there's a 4 missing, and then there is a 6 and a 7 missing. And we don't have any information about that 4. So now what next? In this row, there needs to be an 8 and a 9, and what's the other missing number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But a 7 can't go here. And a 7 can't go here, so you need to be a 7. You need to be a 7, and now you need to be an 8 or a 9. But the deal is you can't be a 9. You need to be our 9. You need to be our 8. You need to be a 9, and now you need to be an 8. Now you need to be a 9. Excuse me. You need to be a 9. And so do you. You now need to be a 2. Because I think a 2 needs to go there. Let me just confirm that quickly. I guess you don't need to be a 2. I'm glad I confirmed that quickly. But what was I doing here? 9s. We have all of the 9s filled in. We have just a fraction of the 8s filled in. There needs to be an 8 in one of these two, and there needs to be an 8 around here someplace. But we're still going. Let's see. There needs to be a 1 down here. That 1 needs to go here, here. There also needs to be what? There needs to be a 3. There needs to be a 3 down here. That can go in one of these ones. And then we're missing a 4th number. So what's the 4th number? A 6. So where is a 6 allowed to go? A 6 is allowed to go in any of them. And that's, no, a 6 is not allowed to go in this column. So a 6 must go here or here. This means that the only thing that's allowed here is a 1. And now 1 is not there. So this is a 2 and 3. Okay, great. Now you must be a 7. And now you guys are 1 and 5. So you can't be a 7. You're a 7. Which means the 7 goes here. You're a 7, so a 7 goes here. You're now a 6. Oh, no. Sorry, that was a mistake. You are a 7, but you don't need to be a 7. You can be a 7. You're probably the other 6 or 7, now that I think about it. Yeah. Glad that we caught that. I feel like we almost had 2 little mistakes there, and that would have been a bad thing. We need a 4 in this row. We need a 6 in this row. I don't see how we're going to handle that. Oh, but there's definitely 1 missing in this row. So what's missing? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is missing. You must be a 7, I think. I think you must be a 7. And now we have the same situation where you can be a 7 also. We have that same situation on that side. Oh, we're at 62 minutes. So at this point we've been doing classic Sudoku now that we've sort of cracked the rules. This was a really fun puzzle to do. I think that we've used up we've used up all the information, all of the arrows and stuff like that, and it's just classic Sudoku at this point. The deal is that I am not a classic Sudoku master, so it's still taking a while, and that's cool. We have to figure out where all these 6s and 7s go. What's left in this region? There's a 3. That 3 needs to go here. So you need to be 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You need to be an 8. Okay, now if you need to be an 8, you need to be an 8, which means you need to be a 2. We've got 1, 2. There's a 3 missing. That 3 needs to go here. 4. You can be a 6 or a 7. Okay, but the deal is that you need to be a 3, which means you need to be a 6. Oh, there's some confetti. I love that. Love the confetti. 1, 2, 3. You're missing a 4. We don't know where that 4 is going to go, though. We also don't know anything about this region up top. So what's missing here? 1, we've got 2, 3. There's a 4. Don't know where the 4 goes. 5, 6, 7. We just didn't fill it in enough, did we? But a 7 probably definitely goes here, maybe. I guess there's a 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, don't have enough information to do that one. This has to be a 6 or a 7 too. I don't know if it's worth filling in, but 1, 2, now this needs to be a 3. This needs to be a 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4. There needs to be a 5. 5 and a 6. That 6 needs to go here, and this needs to be a 5. Now this needs to be a 1, and this needs to be a 5. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 is what goes up here. You need to be our 6, and you need to be an 8. Okay, now you need to be an 8, and you need to be a 1. And now what? Still, okay, now we've got some clarity on all of this. So you need to be a 7, you need to be a 6, now you need to be a 7, you need to be a 6. I can just, you need to be a 7, you need to be a 7, you need to be a 6. Okay, great. And now we, I should, you know, the colors, now I'm sort of stuck in this situation where I need to color the 7s and the 6s because otherwise I'm not going to be able to see them all, which is not a good situation to be in. But 3, there needs to be a 3. This 3 goes here. Excuse me. The 3 goes there. There needs to be a 4 somewhere in this region. We don't know where it goes. The 1 needs to go here. And the 4 needs to go here. Now what's missing in this row? Well, 1, 2, 3. There's a 4 missing here. Now what's missing in this row? There's a 6 missing here, isn't there? Okay, now what's missing in this column? 1, 2, 3. We're missing a 4. What's missing in this? I think it's a 6. And then the puzzle doesn't include a solution, so we're going to have to go look over it. But I think we just did it. In 65 minutes and 32 seconds, we were the 90-second solver. Awesome. Awesome, 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 awesome. Awesome puzzle. Eric, thanks for the puzzle. I hope to do more of your puzzles and then some more puzzles on this channel. So that was a lot of fun. This is called Old-Fashioned TV Antenna. And he used a lot of sums. Yeah, that was crazy. We didn't make progress for like a long, long time, and then figured it out sort of in the middle, and yeah. Awesome. All right. See you later.